The reason I decided to put this stuff on is that Daryl very quietly, he has two lives, and I'm not going to talk about his first life. He was a very sensible, professional part of the community, one of the elders now, sorry for using that word, Daryl, in Nelson, New Zealand, where I live in the business community, has a very grown-up, sensible job. Um, but he also has another job, which is what we're going to talk about, which is where he does coaching for high performance athletes, future All Blacks. And the really interesting thing that I find with, hang on, I'm just going to put mute on there. The very interesting thing that I find is that when I chat to Daryl about this, it's just such common sense that he talks, but it's just like really, really, really interesting. And you don't have to be a future athlete or All Black to use it. So I've been a little bit cryptic, but anyway, Daryl, welcome.
Thank you, Clark. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Oh, this is so good. So now, Daryl, um, the the first time you told me about the stuff you do, you told me that you were working with the Nelson Boys College, the rugby team, coaching these guys, and some of them will go on to become future All Blacks. But by the way, Robert Bolton, who's on the call, will know that I think Nelson Boys College was kind of where rugby first started in New Zealand, if I'm correct. But you kept playing with the ring on one of your fingers as you were describing this. So can you take it from there?
It's an interesting start, Clark. All right, thanks very much. And well, from my perspective, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. It's first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks, Clark. I just Clark has led the witness, so let me just go back a little bit. So by profession, I'm a chartered accountant, and I've had a number of corporate CFO roles and have one of those today here in Nelson. But about 8 years ago, I had the privilege of attending the World Business Forum in Sydney as a conference and had amazing speakers. And one of the speakers there was from the Stephen Covey Leadership Institute. And he had us basically walk through our ideal day in 15 years' time. And the reason why he said 15 years was that often if we say, oh, where do you want to be in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, it'll be a deviation on where we are today. This is his rationale. Whereas 15 years is a long enough period of time to actually change a whole entire career if that's what you desire to do. And so he took us through our ideal day in 15 years' time, minute by minute. Where do we wake up? What are we having for breakfast? You know, those kind of things. Out of that came a desire for me to eventually at some point transition from the corporate CFO world into some kind of mentoring or coaching. And out of that came a desire to want to go deep in a particular area. And around that time, just out of pure interest, I was reading a lot and seeking to learn a lot about psychology, how we make decisions, why do we decide what we decide, why does our mind do what it does. And in the course of that, I came across Red to Blue, which we'll talk about today. And from that point onwards, I've just gone deep into the Red to Blue framework. So let me just pause there, and Clark, I'll come back and talk to you about my ring. You may already have one of these. You may or may not. It's called an Aurora ring. And look, it's simply I don't know whether you can see that, but It has probes in it, OURA. I can see Jack nodding his head. He's probably got one on his finger. And it's simply a device that's measuring my biometrics every day. And if I am twiddling my ring, it's because I'm I'm practicing the very thing I'm going to talk to about today. It's because I'm under pressure, and it's my way of calming down. So so Clark, does that help with the lead in?
Yep, that's a very good leader. So we've got the 15 years. Yep. And then red to blue. So
Yep,
red to blue is your over the next 15 or less than that now, I guess. That become your thing.
yep.
Am I right? That's the bit that I know. The other thing that that maybe want to get Daryl on to talk to everyone is that when he talks about CFO stuff, I find that really interesting, disturbingly, and so does Daryl, obviously. But his eyes light up when he talks about this red to blue stuff. It's kind of like me with, and I'm sure many of us like with bottlenecks or whatever. There's just something that turns your light on. So you figured out what that was, and that's effectively why we got to here. But it kicked off with the 15-year thing. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, actually, when I think about it, Clark, it kicked off before that. I mean, in the late 90s, I worked with someone for a while, and eventually they were a personal coach. And out of that came my own personal purpose statement, which for many years sat in pencil, I must admit. But I guess over time crystallized for me that purpose statement. And I think whilst I've always intended to try and be on purpose in terms of
Mm.
decisions and living life, I think what I'm doing now is just part of crystallizing that personal purpose statement even further.
Yeah. There's another bit that you haven't mentioned here that I think there's another bit that honestly it's the most boring thing in the world, and I'm sure most of you will agree. Rugby. Rugby's another big part of this, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I just noticed Christina said she was Norwegian. I think we drew 1-1 with Norway this morning, didn't we? Which is not a bad. Oh, sorry, that's football, not rugby. And in terms of the All Blacks, I'm not. Yeah. So look, the red to blue is probably most well known in New Zealand through the All Blacks. So I'll just give you a bit of history there. So All Blacks lost to France in 2007 in the quarter final, and they had the reputation of being chokers. And so around that time, Gilbert Anoka, who was the mental skills coach for the All Blacks, introduced the company called Gazing, where Red to Blue has been originated from back in the early 2000s. Gilbert Anoka introduced Dr. Kerry Evans and Red to Blue into the All Blacks around 2007, and the All Blacks still use the Red to Blue framework, mental skills framework today. And if you listen to a number of podcasts from Steve Hansen, coach of the All Blacks, Richie McCaw, Daniel Carter, they they will refer often to principles of from the Red to Blue framework.
Right.
So I'm qualified in the Red to Blue framework and or mindset coaching. And my foray into that was, as you just earlier said, Clark, was the first 15 rugby team with Nelson College. And those in New Zealand, I don't know whether you follow rugby, but um, Nelson College last season when I was involved with them, and I'm not saying it was totally my doing by all stretch of imagination because it's not, but Nelson College went all the way through to the New Zealand secondary schools final and lost in the final to Hamilton Boys High. They went through unbeaten the whole season. Um, so I got involved in them, and it was a great journey, just helping year 12, year 13 young men to perform mentally better under pressure. Um,
So that's a
and
crack. There's three bits there. Mentally, it's performing mentally and under pressure, isn't it? It's there's like a
yeah,
Venn diagram. So this is it's like you said now when you're here, you're kind of in front of everyone. So you're under a little bit of pressure. Um, but like on a rugby field, it's not just physical. It's the mental performance, isn't it? That can make a difference.
yeah, I look absolutely, um, and look, I'll just take your lead here, Clark, in terms of going where you want me to go or where
Yep.
your audience wants me to go, really. But you're absolutely right. We in Red to Blue, we talk about the performance triangle. Uh,
Mhm.
and if you just for 1 minute imagine a triangle and the 3 points, we talk about structure, and structure brings clarity. And we talk about skill set. Skill set brings accuracy. And then we talk about mental, and mental brings intensity.
Oh, I
And
like
so
that.
that's our performance triangle. And but some you might find in some teams or in some areas they talk about, particularly in rugby, they might talk about physical, technical, tactical, mental. So they'll have four, and those three are physical, technical, tactical, kind of in that structure, skill set side of the triangle. And look, I would advocate that if your teams, whether it be a sports team or a team at work, where it is, if you're working as a team or even individually, I think you're compromising your performance if you're just working on the structure and the skill set side of the triangle. And I
Mm.
find with many teams, many teams, that's all they're working on. They're not working on the mental. In fact, Dan Carter, and this is me paraphrasing, but Dan Carter is quoted as saying that prior to Red to Blue coming in, they were training in the gym, they were training on the field, they had the structure and the skill set down, but they knew nothing about the mental side of performance.
So you could have the best physical athletes against. I'm actually testing here. You could have a team of the best athletes uh, competing with a team with not quite the best athletes, but with better mental skills, and they might break even or even be better performing as a group if you've got their mindset right.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a difficult answer categorically, yes or no, Clark, but you know, I come back to my point. To perform optimally, in my mind, certainly in the red to blue framework mindset, we have to be working on all 3 points of the triangle.
Yeah.
Um, the one of the I think one of the risks that if you've got a team who's well performing on the structure and on and on the skill set, and they're prepared, they've prepared well on structure and skill set, and don't have the mindset skills. When they get into that chaotic mindset on the field or wherever it might be,
Mm.
the mind that is chaotic in turmoil, is most unlikely to access the preparation that that team has done on structure and skill set. So if you're saying to me, if I've got a team that is equal around structure, skill set, and mental, and a team that's heavily structure and skill set and no mental, I
Mm.
suggest under pressure, the team, that has the mental skill set is going to perform much better, because the team that perhaps that doesn't, or the organization, or the group of inside an organization who does not have those mental skills and does not know how to cope with the mind being chaotic and running, is not going to be able to access very well the preparation they've done for whatever task that they're going to be attempting.
Okay, I'm grabbing hold of this, and now just to be clear with everyone here, if it's not obvious, when I was at school and all the boys are out playing, well, no, a lot of the boys are out playing rugby, I was in the library reading books. Okay, so I have never had the pleasure of being on a rugby field, but uh, the word pressure, sorry, not the word chaos. I never thought of that, but could you actually no? A way to get where I think you've taken us to the rugby field with this chaos, and it's I presume that there's chaos all around us, but there's chaos in their minds. You when you first started telling me about this, actually, I think it was probably the second time we had lunch together. You were describing how your rugby team, how you just picked up and working. You could hear them on the field, and sometimes they were reminding each other, "Think blue" or something like that. It was a little trigger word that they
Yeah,
had.
yeah,
Could you tell us about that?
yeah. Can I just backtrack 1 minute because I am conscious I am talking about sport and we're not all athletes. We're from all. Can I just take a step back? I think the underlying premise, one of the underlying premises here in this conversation is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you do, we all face pressure. You know, you don't have to be an athlete in a rugby team to face. We all face pressure all every day, all day.
Yep.
Um, so so the principles of red to blue are for anyone in
Hmm.
any situation where pressure is present.
Yep.
Although I might be given examples of rugby fields and swimmers and triathletes and those kind of individuals, the principles of red to blue apply to everyone who faces pressure in whatever circumstance they face themselves in. So just put that qualification out there, Clark. Um, one of one of the things that I appreciate about the red to blue framework is its excuse me is its simplicity. I mean, when you're under pressure and you're seeking to perform under pressure, the last thing we need to understand is how the frontal cortex works or how the amygdala works. I mean, we want something that's simple and easily to implement. And one of the benefits of the red to blue framework is when it's um, when it's taught and when it's learned and when it's owned within a team or an individual, there's a common language,
Hmm.
and I think that's what you're referring to. So, just worked with another team this season, the Tasman Marco women's team, and what we're able to introduce into that team is a common language around mental skills, and so when they're on the field and things are happening, you can hear them talking about, um, you can hear them using phrases or words or language that's the common language that comes from red to blue, which provides a trigger
Hmm.
to implement some of these tools. So back to your question of me. I recall one game. I'm not sure who Nelson College we're playing against. I was close to the try line that the Nelson College boys were defending. They were under pressure to defend their try line. I don't know how many phases they had gone through. They'd given away a couple of penalties. The referee had warned them that if they gave away another penalty, there'd be a yellow card. And I heard the captain of that team yell out, "Boys, blue head, boys, blue head." And that's because we talk about redhead being kind of that diverted attention, chaotic mind,
Hot.
emotional, and bluehead being that calm, process, intentional mind. And the captain of the team, incidentally, you can read about him in the local media. He's just signed with the Warriors for 2026.
Ah.
Um, so so back to your point, your question, Clark. He was yelling out, "Boys, blue head," and that was a trigger for them to say, "Okay, let's
Yep.
get back into um, let's get back into process.
Yep.
Our attention is diverted, so let's get back into process. Where's the pressure coming from here?" And we teach them how to do that on the field within seconds.
Right. So the actual it sounds like it's a habit. It, it's almost a habit with the trigger that kicks off a habit of taking you from hot to not to cold, but to chaotic to calm.
Yeah, look, we would advocate that mental mindset is a skill.
Yes.
You say it's a habit. I would say it's a skill.
Okay. Yeah.
And we would say it's a skill that can be grown and developed and evolved, and it's not a problem to overcome.
Right. Ah.
In fact, there's a great and it's on YouTube. Um, but Novak Djokovic has been interviewed on 60 Minutes, and the interviewer says this, I quote, mental strength, which I think is your greatest gift, right? And then Novak says, I have to stop you there. I have to correct you. It's not a gift. It's something that comes with work.
Oh, I love that.
And so
Yeah.
so Novak then goes on to talk about mindset being a skill, no different than his serve or his volley or his smash. He works at mindset and mental skill, strength, as what he does at any other skill in his game. And and so you use the word habit. I prefer to use the word skill.
Mm, mm.
And like any skill, we can develop and grow that when we know the tools and the techniques, just like hitting a golf ball. We won't get it right all the time, but we can develop the skill. And so, red to blue is a framework or a process of tools and techniques that people can develop as a skill. So when they're under pressure, they're more likely to perform better.
Yeah, I really like that skill, the idea of a skill, and it's a thing you can learn. I've had that thought that like so much stuff that when I work with people, it's about choosing the right words, and some people seem to have that. They, it's almost like they're born with the right words and knowing what to say. But over time, I've realized it's a skill that you can actually you can actually learn. So I'm just bouncing off that. I really like that way of putting it. The time frame. Are we talking? So when I'm kind of doing this, I'm thinking like some people must have like like road rage. Um, some people have road rage because they don't have the skill of intercepting their emotions, and they just go ultra, ultra, ultra red. So the time frame for that is like really, really in the moment. So is there, and it feels like if you're on a rugby team, it's really in the moment. We're talking seconds and milliseconds here, where you're just trying to insert this a slight change in direction and moving your mind from one place to the other. Um, is that generally true, or is there is there like a bigger thing of having chaos versus calm? Is it because it sounds like it is in the moment, but it sounds like it also is the sort of thing that you would carry with you everywhere, and it could change a culture if you had people thinking this way all the time. I don't know. That's kind of. I'm not sure if that's a question, but I'm just intrigued. Is it only on the in the moment of intense pressure now, or is there a bigger kind of scale to it?
I, there's a bigger scale to it. When I think when we throw out red to blue and All Blacks and all that, I think we
Yep.
straight away focus in on those critical moments in a game.
Yep.
But the actual framework, Clark, if I can kind of just
Hmm.
step back for 1 minute, is made up of 5 steps, really. And in the game, in the moment, it's just one of those 5 steps.
Right.
And so, your analogy of road rage, I'm not I'll think about that as I talk, Clark. But if I just come back to the Red to Blue framework, our ability to, and whether it's on the rugby field or whether it's in our companies or wherever it is we work, or even at homes and our relationships, quite frankly,
Yep.
um, job interview, wherever it is. But we a lot of how we perform under pressure in the moment, in those critical moments, will come down to how well we've prepared for those moments. And so the first I'll just quickly, if you don't mind, Clark, I'll just
Go for it.
quickly run through the five
That's
phases,
cool.
if you like, of the framework, and then you can springboard off that wherever you want to go. So the first one is purpose, and I talked earlier on about my own personal life purpose, but I'm not necessarily talking about that here in this case. But purpose is all about making sure we are aligned on what our goal is or what our objectives are. Are we actually aligned? Is the team aligned on the purpose for the season, for this practice, for this game?
Hmm.
Project teams, Clark, that you work for, are we all aligned on what it is we're achieving here?
Mm.
I
Often not.
mean, I mean, you'll know as well as I do, if we don't have alignment or if there's misalignment, we're we're in trouble before we start.
Yes.
Um, so that's about purpose. Do we have our priorities right? And so, in terms of Red to Blue, we'll take them through what I call a priority planner,
Hmm.
and whether that is at a personal level or whether that's at a team level. For the rugby team I worked with this season, we did a lot of work on culture, a lot of work on culture and values before the season even started. So first one is purpose. So that's about what should happen.
Yep.
The second one is preparation, and that's all about what could happen.
Ah, nice.
And we do a lot of work in the preparation. If there's any weighting to those five stages, it's probably this second stage where it gets the most weight, preparation.
Yep.
Because I'd propose to you that most pressure is predictable.
Hmm.
And if we accept that most pressure is predictable, then our responses are also predictable.
Yes. Yep.
So you know, so if someone said to me, I'm going into this situation and I'm not prepared for this, or they indicate that they haven't prepared for this, then I can almost tell you what their response to that pressure is going to be.
Panic.
Yeah, well, we know the fright,
Yes.
freeze,
Yep.
fight kind of scenario. It'll be one of those. I mean, I just want to
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
let me just pause there. So most pressure is predictable, and our pressure will come from one of three, or if not, a combination of these three things. And we use the escape word as an acronym. So the first point where our pressure will come from will be expectations. E. Expectations on ourselves, expectation from others on us, expectations. The second area where our pressure will come from is scrutiny. Yes. And uh, uh, so scrutiny is where we are going to be judged or assessed by other people. So, you're aspiring All Black player, you're 18, 19 years old.
Weights.
There are scouts in the
Yeah.
stands watching you,
Yep.
so you are being scrutinized. And so that brings some pressure. Um, Take the rugby team that I worked with this season. There are a lot of debutants in this rugby team, and all the games were televised on Sky television live.
Right.
And so some of those new players had never been never played in a game that was going to be televised live. And so this is a whole new area of pressure from them.
I,
And they've been scrutinized. They
I can
felt like
feel it
they've been
myself.
scrutinized.
Putting myself in their shoes, that's enormous.
Yeah. So E, expectations, S, scrutiny, and C, consequences. So, our pressure will come from, if we fail here, these are the consequences. Or if I don't get this right, this is our consequence. And the APE is, we'll either become aggressive, so we'll fight, or P will become passive, that kind of freeze mindset, or E, we just want to escape. We just want to get out of there. We just want to fly away. Um,
Wow.
so we do a lot of work in that preparation on the basis that most pressure is predictable, and we do a lot of what ifs,
Right.
and it's very simple, isn't it? But we we will sit down and we have a template where on the left hand side, what if this was to happen? It's almost like a pre-mortem, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If this project was to fail, if we got to the end of this project and the project has failed, what would have happened?
Yep.
And we do that, pre-mortem what if stuff.
And you do it when you are in a blue state.
We
I,
do
yeah.
that, like take the team I worked for, the team this year that I worked with. So they'll generally play on a Saturday.
Hmm.
Sunday they'll have a recovery day. Monday we'll do a post-game review.
Right.
And then Tuesday we're in the preparation stages for the next game. So on the Tuesday, we're doing what ifs
Right.
for the next game on the Tuesday. And the reason why we're doing it so early is on the right-hand side of our template. So we've got our what ifs. On the right-hand side is our response to that what if. So if this was to happen,
Yep.
this is how we're going to respond. And we practice our responses. Now we won't get it all right.
Hmm.
So the reason why we do our what ifs early in the week is so that during the rest of the week we can practice our responses to those what if scenarios. So
Over
we'll
and over again. Yeah, and embed it in your. So I'm presuming here that when you do the practice, if they come real, it's much more just instinctive and it flows then.
Yeah, it's exactly
Okay.
right. And,
Yeah.
and again, we won't get them all right. We won't get every what if. But if we can practice our response to the what ifs, and if that what if actually occurs in a game,
Hmm.
our mind goes, oh, okay, I've been here before. I know what to do.
Yes.
And our energy will go into kind of our response and our solution because we know what that is,
Yep.
versus our mind energy going into what do I do here?
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Oh, so you don't have to make it up on the spot.
well, yeah, I mean, our mind plays funny things on us, but
Yeah.
generally that's the idea. So
Okay. That's awesome. So you
I'll
got.
give you, Clark, I'll give you
Please.
an example. I'll give you an example. Um, so we were coming up against a team. Everyone felt that this was a game that would be close, but we should win.
Hmm.
And so one of the what ifs was, what if we get down to a rugby game for those overseas is 80 minutes, 42 40s. What if we get behind on the scoreboard by, let's say 4 points. So that's more than a penalty of three.
Right.
Um, but we've got to get a try worth 5 points, and we are right, we're 5 meters out from the try line, right?
Mm.
What are we going to do? So, so we actually practice that during the week. We actually practice that scenario so that if that event actually occurs, then we know exactly what we're going to do. We know, yeah.
Actually, and then everyone knows.
Everyone knows.
And it's like, is it? I know. I think in American football they have plays, and they have playbooks, and they have particular. And I presume rugby teams have the sort of a similar thing. And I think in the lineouts they do, don't they? When they call
Yeah.
various things, it goes, "Ha, we're going to do this." Um, but this is a level beyond that, isn't it? It's where's the pressure? Um, and what do we do under this pressure here, rather than have to make it up, um, and hope we're all aligned
Yeah.
in the pressure moment?
So I think this comes back to our performance training that I talked before. I mean, they will have the structure, right? So they'll have structure brings clarity. So they'll have the playbook,
Ah, okay.
right?
Yep.
They'll have the playbook. This is the play we're going to run, when we are 5 meters out and we've got a
Okay.
line out. This is the play. This is the play. So that's our structure.
Right.
They'll have the skill set. They'll know how to throw the ball into the line out. They'll know how to
Yes.
pass the ball or know how to kick or whatever they have to do from a skill set point of view to implement that structure. But if they don't have the mindset around that, if their mind is red here, they will not be able to. The most It's unlikely that they'll access that preparation in the critical moment, despite having all the structure, despite
Right.
having all the skill.
Yep.
If our mind is diverted to something else, scoreboard,
Yes.
crowd, a whole lot of other diversions, it's most likely we won't accurately access our preparation in the critical moment.
Right. That makes perfect. That just and it's the practice, and I guess getting your. I'm going to just divert slightly. I'm just I have hearing aids here, and one day before I realized that they were waterproof-ish, I got in the shower before a really important call wearing them. And then I looked down and go, something's wrong. Um, and I realized that I'd just given my very expensive hearing aids a bath. They were fine. But after that, I decided I never wanted to go through that again. And this is kind of where I built in a little habit that made sure that when I get in the shower now, I just do that. And actually become a habit now, but it's and that's why I mentioned the habit before, because it's actually not really much of a skill involved. But I think what you're doing when you're picking up on the trigger, so that when you've got people under pressure, they don't have to invent something. That the trigger gets that part of their brain just kicking into action. Almost, I know you talk about blue being more thoughtful, but it's almost a thoughtless reaction, isn't it? It's almost.
Well, it's intentionality in the critical moment, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
like we've heard that saying, hope is not a strategy.
Yes,
You know,
indeed.
so hoping in the critical moments is not going to work most likely. You know,
That's really,
and,
really,
and,
really
and
clear.
so and so back to the common language, you might have the captain on the team just say, blue head or in
Yep.
fact, the blue head languaging phrase was in the Nelson College boys, but in the rugby team I worked with this season, it was next job. They just said next job.
Okay.
And so, someone might just call next job. And it was just a thought of, okay, let's get our mind back into Bluehead, back
Right.
into process, back into, we talk about in the Bluehead clarity,
Hmm.
intensity, and accuracy, CIA. So, that's where we want people to be,
Yep. But, but
clear,
the-
accurate,
or
and
actually, to the athletes, do they all that they've got the frameworks, and you've taught them the frameworks, so they know that, and then so that's kind of like standard. Here's our vocabulary, and then you've also go through and you work out the bits, um, that they where they prepare and they think ahead. When they're actually in the moment, there's nothing you can do, is there?
nothing I can do or they
No,
can do.
nothing you can do at that.
No.
Yeah, so the preparation, and getting them all having this stuff. It reminds me very much of there was a thing I saw of Eisenhower, and it was 25 years after D-Day, and it was this old, I think, CBS recording, and they're talking about D-Day, and he said, "Well, I knew that the moment we got the weather forecast, and I said go, all of my work was done here, and there was absolutely nothing that I could do, because it depended on everyone else who was actually out there on the field."
Hmm.
So I'm just sorry, I'm untangling this for myself. I find it really interesting that there's the preparation is where all the work goes, but it's the focus is without the preparation, the execution is meaningless. They could know all this knowledge, but they've got to be set up so that their brain follows that nice prepared path
Hmm.
um, in the moment. And the language about let's go back to the ring. The ring. This would be a good time to talk about the ring because most people think of those aurora rings as a measurement device. But if I'm right, you're using it for that as well as the red to blue stuff.
Yeah, look, should I, without wanting to avoid what you had just said, can I just should I carry on with my five phases? Because I
Yes,
think
yes, yes, yes,
I've
do.
talked about five up to number two, and then maybe we can come because that comes into phase three. What you just said, it comes into
Okay,
phase three.
cool.
Can I just say a few things about what ifs? I mean, like I gave you some examples of what if this happens on the field, but can I just say, again, I just come back to this. It doesn't matter where you are, whether it's a project team, whether it's in a company or where it is. But our what ifs start way back before the game. So, things like what if I haven't slept well lean into the game? What if I haven't hydrated well? What if my nutrition is off? What if the plane is late? What if the bus breaks down? All
Wow.
of those moments create pressure for us.
Yes.
And so our what ifs are happening well before the game.
Yep.
you know. And so, yeah, and so the other thing I'll say to you is that we have in that preparation, so we've got what ifs and you can call them pre-mortems, but we also have what we call a practice planner.
Right.
And if you can just think of a ladder with three rungs, um, there are three phases in our practice ladder. Um, we train to train.
Yep.
And that's about training the fundamentals and the basics of whatever it is we're in.
Right.
We train to compete,
Yep.
and the third one is we train to win. Now, a lot of a lot of teams will be in the train to train and the train to compete,
Yes.
right? Very, very few will be in the train to win. And so, what's the difference between train to compete and train to win? The train to win is the training you might do under pressure. So the train to train is the fundamentals, just the
Yep.
fundamentals of whatever you're doing. The train to compete is the getting the playbook right, getting the moves right, being in the
Hmm.
right position, calling the right moves. And the train to win is the we want to train under pressure for those moments. So for example, by the time you by the time you're getting to the end of an 80-minute game of rugby, you are fatigued. And we all know that when we're fatigued, our skill set drops off, our clarity drops off, right? And so the likelihood of making mistakes comes up.
Hmm.
But that's the moment where if the game is on the line, you really want to be mentally strong. So we would, in this season just gone, without telling the players, we would train for 80 minutes
Hmm.
quite intensely. But the last 10 minutes of that training, we would really put the pressure on them. I mean, they're fatigued. And so in their training, um, Robert Bolton, the Randwick bus broke down for Randwick versus Manly Rugby Grand Final. Sorry, exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So in training, at the 70th minute of training, we would up the intensity. So the last 10 minutes of the training was at really, really high intensity when they were absolutely fatigued.
Ah,
And,
yep.
and what you saw was mistakes being made,
Yeah.
communication dropped off.
Yep.
That's a big thing. Communication dropped off,
Right.
the intensity dropped off, the clarity went. And so the purpose of that was to simulate the last 10 minutes of a game when we were fatigued. And so that's what I mean by train to win. Train in
Right.
those pressure moments. I'll give you another example. The rugby team, I'm sorry I'm going on about rugby. I'll go into some
It-
other examples.
that's all right. Better than cricket.
Um, yeah, it is actually. So we were playing a particular team. Our team was reasonably smallish physically,
Hmm.
and this particular team was physically much, much bigger than us.
Right.
Um, Now we could have just trained the fundamentals, trained
Yep.
to compete, be in the right position and all those kind of things, get our tackles right, all those kind of things. But we were coming up against a much physically stronger, bigger team. And so what we did was we organised a practice game with the under 19 boys. So the team I was with was females, girls
Oh,
rugby, women's rugby.
yep.
And so we organised a game with the under 19
They were much
boys,
bigger,
much, much bigger. And,
intimidating.
and we asked the
Me.
boys to go at it.
Right.
And that was just purely getting the woman to feel what it was like to come
Yeah.
under pressure from these bigger players tackling them
It's so
and what it
clever.
was going to be like to tackle a bigger player.
Yeah.
So that when we got to a game, they weren't surprised.
And do you debrief after they've gone through the pressure so that they actually then look back and go, oh, okay, this is what we noticed was different, and just reinforce so you actually
Cer-
help them.
Certainly in training, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah. And the next one, phase three, is performance. So that's in the moment.
Okay.
It's
Yep.
in the moment, and so you know what what should happen,
Yep.
what could happen, what is happening,
Yes.
and so when it comes to mindset, let me go back one step.
Hmm.
Um, if I said to you, Clark, um, what is the organizing principle for a game for someone playing tennis? What is, there'd be one singular organizing principle to play tennis. What would you say that is?
I would say hit the ball.
But what is it about? Yeah, that makes sense in the game of tennis, Clark. But what is it about hitting the ball? What's the organizing principle? I'll
J-
answer it. Yeah, what?
Please answer for me because again, sports. It's
I,
I could check out a book
I,
from a
I
rugby
would
player.
I'd say in tennis is organizing principle is keeping your eye on the ball,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And if I said to you, what's the organizing principle about riding a bike? What would that be?
It's keep your eye on the road.
Balance,
Balance, balance. Yeah.
right? So when it comes to mindset, there is an organizing principle, right?
Mm,
And the organizing principle is the control of our attention, right?
nice. Yes.
And so what Red to Blue is all about is that we'll have things come into our game or into our project or into our performance, whatever our performance is, a job interview,
Yep.
whatever it is. We'll have moments that come into our performance that divert our attention.
Yes.
They divert our attention away from what it is we are seeking to execute.
Mm,
And it's that diversion of attention that puts us into redhead.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
And um, and so um, so when we so the critical thing when it comes to mindset is that when our attention has been diverted, we've gone into redhead,
Yep.
is what is the skill to get us back from redhead to bluehead? And bluehead is about getting our attention, our control of our attention back to the moment or the thing that we ought to be executing.
So it's grabbing hold, moving it back. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
So back to my ring.
Yes.
So one of the techniques or skills that we teach people that they develop is just simply the ability to zoom out
Hmm.
and get perspective.
Yeah.
So if our attention has been diverted and we are in the redhead, some characteristics of being in the redhead is that um, again the acronym stuck, STUCC. So when we're in redhead, and it'll be different for different people in terms of how it manifests itself, but we S is for split attention, right? So um, I'll give you another example, another rugby game example. So in a game of rugby, um, split attention might occur when I've dropped the ball, right? And the game's gone on.
Hmm.
So so something has come into the moment and has diverted my attention, the drop ball. I shouldn't have dropped the ball.
Mm.
I've let the team down. My mind has been diverted into red. And so my attention is both on the fact that I've dropped the ball as
Yes.
well as on the game that carries on. So my attention is split.
Right.
So that's S. T, someone who's in redhead might become tentative, or they may, or tight. They feel tight.
Yep.
Um, U is we might underreact, or conversely, we might overreact to a situation.
Yes.
Real key thing here for performance under pressure is self-awareness, and this is what self-awareness is. This is what this is really. It's just being a self-aware that our attention has been diverted and we are in redhead state. Because if we can be aware of the fact that we're in redhead, or we
Yep.
might be going into redhead, we can then self-regulate.
Yes.
We can move back to blue.
I
The
like that.
C in stuck is when you watch a game or see people, one of the tendencies of someone who's in redhead is they're confused and they make mistakes.
Yep.
Their mind is chaotic and they're unable to access the preparation they've done.
Yep.
So if someone is speaking, this is a classic, isn't it? Someone is going to speak, and the technology doesn't work. Right?
Yes.
Our attention gets diverted away from the actual message that we want to get across to it gets diverted, and heart rate goes up. We get all sweaty. Our attention is split between the technology that's not working and the communication that we should be,
You're giving me flashbacks here,
you
by the way.
know, and we start making mistakes. We underreact, we overreact, we're tentative, we just feel tight.
Yep.
So what we what we seek to teach people in those moments is to step back or zoom out. And this can be, 1 second on the rugby field. It can be 3 seconds in a room full of people where you're talking to them and the technology has gone awry. Is just zoom out,
Hmm.
take a step back, right? And the way we do that is to do something physical.
Yep. Uh,
And for me, I twiddle my ring. That's my physical.
Right.
So if I'm feeling under pressure, if I feel like my attention has been diverted, I'm distracted away from the task that I should be doing. For me to zoom out, I will physically do something. And
And
that is a trigger in my mind to say, okay, I need to move from red to blue.
yes. And
Uh,
it almost happens automatically-ish, I imagine, at that stage once you've done it enough.
Yeah, and look, you'll and so when I work with a rugby team, we'll get the players to come up with their own physical thing that they're going to do on the field for their
Right.
zoom out, right? And look,
Okay.
some people have pulled their shirt, some have straightened their shorts. You'll see a lot of teams breathing.
Right.
That's a classic
Basic. Calm down.
kind of,
Yep.
what we're trying to do, Clark, is we're trying to create a circuit breaker
Yes.
and zoom out. So we zoom out, we step back, we step up to get perspective, and then we make a decision and we step in.
And step in.
So step back, step
Feels
up,
very
step
physical.
in. And if that's too hard, zoom out, zoom in.
Right.
Um, and um, and when we zoom out, Clark, and trying to get perspective, we we're trying to say, where is our pressure coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And look, if we just come back to our triangle again, is it coming from a lack of clarity around our structures?
Yes.
So on the rugby field, um, is our pressure coming from the playmaker not calling? I'm
Right.
not hearing the calls,
Yes.
or they're not crisp enough, or they're not clear enough. What is causing the pressure? Is it structure? Is it skill set? Is our accuracy not there?
Mm.
Or is it mindset? We're just not, our minds are chaotic for whatever reason.
Right.
So you and I chatted over lunch the other day, didn't we? I often think about this. I mean, probably like most of us on the call, I've travelled to London, and I've done done the tube, done the underground, and I always remember, that there's a yellow line on the platform with the words "mind the gap," and you're constantly hearing "mind the gap, mind the gap, mind the gap." And I guess that's what we're saying here, really, Clark, is that when we feel we're in redhead, our attention has been diverted away from the moment that we should be in.
Yes.
All we're asking people is mind the gap, mind
And
the
look.
gap, create a gap,
Yes.
create a gap. And on the field, or whether it's in a you're given a presentation, if it's in a job interview, your mind is split because I haven't answered that question well enough, and I wish I could go back and answer that question better, but they've gone on to the next question. Or I'm doing an RFP, a proposal for a contract, and I'm presenting that. What we're asking people is to, in the moment, do something physical,
Mm.
just step back, get some perspective, right? And here's the skill. Here's the skill. And it's three circles. What can't I control? What can I influence? What can I control?
Right.
And what we want to do is recognize what we can't control, accept what we can influence, and we want to choose what we can control.
Very interesting.
So, so we're in the moment. Our attention has been diverted. Zoom out. What am I not in control of? What can I influence, and what am I in control of?
Mm.
And choose to do those things that I'm in control of.
Yep.
Make a decision, step back in. I mentioned that Novak Djokovic 60-minute interview, and I'll just say something else that come out of that interview. So Novak Djokovic says, I don't like this kind of mindset I see a lot in sports. Just think positive thoughts, be optimistic, no room for failure. And then he says this, it's impossible. And what he's meaning there is in terms of red to blue, it's our minds will go redhead. Doesn't matter who you are. You can be the best tennis player in the world.
Hmm.
Your attention will be diverted and will go redhead. So it's not we do not teach don't go red because that's impossible.
Yeah.
We all go red. And then he goes on to say, he actually goes, it's impossible. We're all human beings. And then he says this, the difference between those biggest champions and the ones that are struggling to get to the highest level is the ability not to stay in the redhead moment. That's my words. He talks about staying in the emotions, but to move from the redhead to the bluehead. And so
Mm.
you watch Novak play, and he'll go in the redhead. And I don't know whether he does this consciously or not, but his physical thing is that he'll yell, he'll scream, he'll bang his racket on, he'll do something physical.
Yep.
And that's just simply his way of being self-aware that he's in the red head,
It's a
self-regulating,
transition
get back into
moment.
the blue head.
He almost builds himself a bridge on the spot. Yeah, to get over the gap. Yeah.
Mm,
Actually, no, I
yeah.
like that. That's really interesting. I love the way you brought it back to something, like him. Um, it's very different. Is tennis a team sport? It's just it, it's a bit different, isn't it? 'Cause I suppose it is a team sport, but you've got one key player. Rugby, how does it work for the? Sorry, I'm going to ask you something now, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's like tennis and rugby. I know they're elite sports, and I can see there's a lot of skills and physical kind of things there that they got in common, and mindsets. But with does this stuff? I can see it applies to both. It's just that they feel so different. As I mean, one's brutish thuggery. Uh, I'm not saying which one, but the tennis is so much more one person under a spotlight. Would that change the dynamics of how you do this, or is it a silly question? I'm not quite even sure what I'm.
Oh, look, never a silly question, Clark. And my answer is simple no. I mean, like, because under both situations, people are under pressure, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That pressure is coming from expectations, consequences, scrutiny. Everyone, in both of those situations, people are under pressure. And so, so fundamentally the principles still apply. Um, I don't know who it was. I just saw a question pop up real quick. It disappeared before I was able to read it in full, but it was something like in a project team, there's a lot of multitasking,
yes.
happening. And I guess just assuming where that question might be coming from is that split attention where attention is on multitask. And I think I guess what I'm referring to is not necessarily um, having one task, to be in Bluehead, you only have one task. What we want to do is that whether we're multitasking or single tasking,
Yep.
the principle here is that we want to execute well in the moment under pressure, whether we're multitasking or not.
Yes.
Um, and so, even when we're multitasking, there's a risk that our attention is diverted. And so the principles apply.
Mm,
Just zoom out, step back, step up as a way of getting perspective,
yep.
and then just asking ourselves, where is the pressure coming from?
Mm,
Is the pressure coming from our structure? So in this case, is our project plan not kind of working for us? Are we multitasking on too many work streams?
mm,
Um, is our resourcing not right? Um, and then if you come down the triangle skill set, so structure will bring clarity to the project.
yep.
Skill set will bring accuracy. So do we have the right skills in the team to be doing what we're doing right at this moment?
Yes.
Um, and then the mindset is all about intensity, bringing the intensity to the project. Um, so same principles. if we're multitasking and that multitasking is diverting our attention off the critical moments, let's zoom out,
Yep.
get some perspective, and where's our pressure coming from? Make a decision, step in. So on a sports field, that might be a 3 second moment. In a project, that might be a day moment, or a
Yes.
3 hour moment, or a 1 hour moment.
I was going to bounce off that. By the way, that was Jack who asked that, who's an expert on not multitasking. But I'm sure he still does it just like I do, that um, I'm just, but one of the things that I think as I've got older, and I'm just bouncing off this is because I think I've had a lot of people say to me that I can calm things down. I come into something and it can be kind of all over the place, and and I can sort of calm it down. And I mean that sounds like I'm showing off, but it's just one of those things. As I've got older, I've been able to do that, and there's and I think it's so there's like parallels with this, but inserting something into your work environment where you can actually have calm conversations. It is taking it from that red chaotic panic, panic, panic to that blue calm. Hey, let's just work it through. Um, yeah, and you've got a mechanism for doing. I'm just trying to think. You've got a mechanism, but it's got a whole lot of stuff around it. Again, I'm
Yeah,
thinking out
look,
loud here, but all that preparation and setting up your systems to be able to actually just move it from chaos to calm, collected thinking is
yeah. One of the
magnificent.
Clark, if one of the techniques that we used all the time, and which I teach, and it's very, very, very simple, but really effective. Um, and Jack, think about this in terms of your question, but I can just imagine a project with multiple people, multitask, and it could sometimes feel chaotic and be very well in control, and then sometimes be chaotic and totally out of control, and people are angry and frustrated. And
Yes.
we it's very simple. Draw a line, horizontal line, zero at one end, 100 at the other end. And we would ask every player, we'd go around the room and just say, how are you feeling right now? Put a mark on that line. Zero is I'm stuck, I'm diverted, I'm off task, I'm red head, and then blue, sorry, 100% I'm blue. I'm on process. I've got clarity. I've got intensity. I've got accuracy. I'm just in the flow. Where are you on the line right now? Because performance is all about getting movement.
Yep.
And so generally speaking, wherever we put our mark on the line, there is room to move up the line.
Yes.
And so we would, I'll give you another example. So I work with a basketball team. They were playing in a national tournament, rolled up to the game, got out of the bus in the car park, and just quickly, you know, just went around the team. How on our line 0 to 100, how we're feeling right now. Right now, how we're feeling. And within 60 seconds, we got a snapshot of just where individuals were and where the team was in terms of how we're feeling. And we're able to work with that.
I
And
could imagine almost doing it would actually quite often just almost result in a collective move slightly to more blue, as people just got it out, and then it would help them. I could imagine it could be quite calming down to actually just do that exercise.
yeah, and look, Clark, if I said to you how are you feeling right now, and you're at 30 or 40,
Mm.
we just zoom out. What is it going to take to move you up to 50?
Yeah.
What is it going to take to move up to 60? And if we come back to our performance triangle, do I have to be a bit clearer with you on the structure around the project, or are we missing some skill? Is there a skill set that you're struggling with for this particular project, or is it just my mind mentally is diverted on something else? And what is that diversion? And what can we control and what we can't control about that diversion. Um,
Really like that. I'm just going to bounce off it because I just think, I said that I kind of people said I calm things down, and often it is actually that kind of stepping back and stepping up, and letting people talk about stuff and get their words out, and then you just sort of almost say something that just gives them a little bit more of a reframe or a big picture, and
hmm.
everything just sorts itself out. Or everything kind of calms down after that. It
Yeah,
very
I,
sim
I've led teams and lead a team right now, and
Yeah,
often I would go into a meeting, I'd have an agenda of things I want to get through and get across,
yep,
and one thing I'll do is I'll go into the room, and before we start the meeting, I'll go around the room and I'll just ask individuals to use one word that describes how they're feeling right now.
right.
And if I went around the room and I got frustrated, tired, angry, um, you know,
Yeah,
I, I would I would most likely set my agenda aside, because if I've got a room full of people who are kind of feeling that way, it's unlikely
yes,
that this is going to be productive, or the outcome is going to be productive. I would rather spend the time to deal with why are you angry, or why are you frustrated, or why are you, whatever you are. So, and I guess that's another example of it's just getting perspective and saying, from a performance point of view, how do we move ourselves up that line?
that's really good. I love that. Can I so what I'd like to do now, sorry, actually rather selfishly, I'll tell you where my head is at now. I feel like the stuff you've got has systematized a lot of the things that I've had to make up for myself over the years. I really like that, and it's just given the naming of things, the structures, the acronyms. It just feels it's yeah, 56, and I'm still figuring out how to work with people. This feels like an advantage that those kids are going to have for the rest of their lives. So I've got two things I'd like to do now. One is just see if we can open up for discussion and stuff. But if I remember correctly, we have purpose, prepare, preparation, performance, and I think there's two more P's to come.
Number four is reset.
Oh, I thought it was going to start with a P.
I'm conscious of time, Clark. So, number
Cool.
four is reset. So this is almost it's a hot debrief.
Right. Yep.
So we've come off a project, or we've come off the field, or we've come off the court, or whatever we've done.
Yep.
It's a hot debrief. And we've got tools around this. We call it the mental checklist.
Yep.
And it's just a checklist of were we diverted? Um, what did we do to move out of our diverted state from red head to blue head?
Yep.
It's a hot debrief.
Okay, cool.
It's a debrief in the emotional moment, I guess. And then the fifth one is revision. So again, when the emotions died down, it could be 2 days later after a rugby game. Just it's just a it's a so we had what should happen,
Yep.
what could happen, what
Yes.
is happening,
Yep.
what happened,
Yes.
what next.
Oh, that's so good.
And you made a comment about, like none of this. I suspect a lot of us in this call will be doing a lot of this anyway,
Hmm.
whether it's consciously or intuitively. I think what Red to Blue does, it puts a framework and a language and a structure and a process around this,
Yeah.
so that, again, if we come back to the premise, this is a skill, then we kind of can develop that skill. We know where we are in that skill in various points of that framework.
So it's almost like for your emotions. If it was like learning how to use your emotions, it was like learning how to play tennis, say, you're going to get better at it if you have a coach. And this is like a coach in a box that
Sure.
breaks things down and it teaches you technique. It's beautiful. Right. I like that. So I popped in the five steps here. I'm very disappointed they're not five P's. Um,
Sorry about that.
that's not on, but we'll move on. Gentlemen and ladies, ladies and gentlemen, I think Christine is still on the call there, but I think it's not actually Christine. I think it's Adam, her partner. Though I could be guessing entirely wrong here just from the note. Not that it matters either way. I was just trying not to be sexist when I said gentlemen. But are there any questions, any thoughts? Anyone want to come on and have a chat, reflect?
I'm very grateful for the learning. Sports is a great management school, and what you talk about uncertainty, how to prepare the mind to understand the possible causes of uncertainty and deal with that was wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you, Leandro.
The other problem we have in Colombia is the players that get so good that the fame makes them do wrong things. What do you think about that?
Mm. Yeah, what do I think about that? It's a it's
So,
a
how to
timely.
manage success? The issue how to manage properly success.
Yeah, it's. Can I just? I'm going to reach for a book here. Your question is absolutely
Uh-huh.
quite timely. I'm reading a book for the second time now. It's called
Oh,
it's called The Only Way to Win.
Yeah.
And Andre, what this book is about is is what does success look like? And what this book advocates um, is that on your way to success, who are you becoming? Because what this book would advocate is that you get to that pinnacle of whatever your success is, Wimbledon champion, football league champions or whatever, and most times the people feel hollow. The success has not done for them what they thought it was going to do for them. And on the way through, they've damaged relationships, they've destroyed character, and they've become someone who really, in hindsight, they don't want to become or didn't want to become. So this book is all about um, on our. It's not saying don't have success. It's not saying don't become a world champion. It's not saying. In fact, it's encouraging people to become that. But on the way through, who are you becoming? And I guess to your point about fame derailing people,
Right.
I would suggest that perhaps they haven't been very, very clear on what their purpose is right from the start. There's a really good anecdote in here about Andre Agassi, the tennis player, who ended up not enjoying tennis because he got to where he got to and it was hollow. It didn't produce for him what he wanted out of it. But then he flipped the script and reframed his why. And in a later part of his career, he played tennis to help people. So he built skills and orphanages and those kind of things with the money that he earned from tennis, and his enjoyment came back.
And the other thing I love is the way you check in execution what should be the right road to doing the right diagnosis in execution. I think it's really valuable for all of us how to check in execution if you are going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think yeah, again that comes back to our phase one, right? What is our priorities? What
Mhm.
are our goals? So you always need something to check against, don't you? Um, but you're also checking that what you started off with is still valid, still the right priority. Mm.
very good.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I like that. Any other questions or thoughts? I do like that the rain brush, just for anyone that didn't pick up on the message going through, and people who can't see the message on YouTube. So Robert Bolton much earlier added that the Randwick bus broke down for Randwick versus Manly rugby grand final in 1983, and it still seems to be in Robert's mind. And the Randwick players think this contributed to the substandard performance. So there's two bits I like about that. Isn't it funny how there could be a little tiny thing that actually lost a game, and it does sit and linger in people's minds for a very, very long time afterwards. But I think this maybe comes back, Daryl, I'm just conscious of time, just trying to wrap up here. It feels like a nice way to think about all of the stuff that you've got at high performance at work, and on the field and in your personal lives, can be derailed by a silly little thing like a bus having a flat tire, say, uh, and the knock-on effect of that, and but it's how you cope with it, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, what I've learned with professional sports teams is that they'll have a process back to this Manly situation, and I suggest that they'll have a process, a warm-up process,
Yep.
and anything that splits their attention. So Daryl asked a question I didn't quite catch it about alignment of priorities and expectations.
Do you want me to read
He
it out? Is there a short answer to aligning purpose and expectations,
I,
specifically amongst
I like that. Is there a short answer? In other words, Daryl, this is me, Daryl, being too long for my answers.
We want the cheat sheet. How do you align purpose and expectations? It's a very good question. And the other Daryl knows there isn't a short answer, I think.
How would you answer, Daryl?
Ah,
Um, well, actually, my wife and I are starting a consulting business, and this has become a big issue for us because when you're developing a strategy for an organization, especially when it's a big organization, there are so many characters in the room that aligning the organization's purpose with all these characters and then the multitude of expectations that everyone has can be quite a big derailer. So we've been thrashing this over quite a lot, quite extensively. So I just thought maybe you'd have a one sentence answer that we could go and implement.
Probably my one sentence, Daryl, is sorry, I don't have I don't have a one sentence.
Or it depends.
Yeah, I think Ivan Cleary, who's the Penrith Panther head coach, put out a book at Christmas time, and I was amazed just what percentage of that book talked about culture, Daryl, and how much work the Penrith Panthers put into culture. I know this is not answering your question necessarily, but he has a line in there that he says, if you want to change the people, sometimes you have to change the people. And he as a coach was willing to let some of the most skillful players go because they weren't prepared to own or buy into and be part of the culture of the team.
mm-hmm.
And I know it's not answering your question, but you and your wife, I think you'll have a purpose which is true in the sense it'll be unwavering, but expectations will change all the time between individuals. And for me, and that's a human thing in a way. And sometimes those expectations won't align in people, and sometimes they will align. And so where they align, great for culture. Where they don't align, I think there's a decision to be made. Can I work with an individual for alignment? And if I can't, sometimes if I want to change the people, I have to change the people.
Yeah, and I guess what also goes with that one is if you can't change the organization, change the organization.
Yeah. I don't know where I read it somewhere, Daryl, but I read it takes 12 miles. I don't know whether it's true or not. It takes 12 miles to turn a fully laden oil tanker. And it was in context of culture. It takes a long time to move culture. Yeah, that didn't answer your question. I appreciate. Don't put that on the YouTube, Clark.
We'll
Cut
put
out.
that up there. And Daryl failed at the end to answer
Yeah,
the most
won't
important
won't won't make me look good.
question. No, that's a good answer. Yeah. Did you know, it's funny because you think about people having a true north, but the difference between having magnetic uh, north and I'm not sure what the other word is for the actual real north pole, but they can be going in the same direction for a long, long time and still aiming for slightly different places.
The
So maybe
physicist told you, Clark, it's true north.
I've got actually, this is one of those rare calls where we actually had two uh literal uh physics doctors of physics with multiple lurking in the background here. This is the quality of people that we're keeping the company with here.
Yeah, I was just thinking about my own daughter's business, and Clark will attest to this because he's been there right from the start. I mean, we being my daughter and us and a few other people, but we worked very, very hard on purpose and vision at the start. And we haven't deviated away from that purpose or vision at all. But the expectations have changed,
Mm.
as the business evolves, and because we just didn't know what we didn't know. So, and some people have come on board and haven't lasted. And I'm okay with that because I'm not gonna change my purpose and vision to accommodate someone's expectations.
Mm.
So, and Clark, you can attest.
I've been a victim of Brianna for a very long time now, and I think it's all going in the right direction. Definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I do agree. It started with you guys are very thoughtful about what you wanted to put together and why it was different. I mean, if you think of gyms, a lot of them are just franchises where the primary purpose is to have an income source. You guys are quite different from that, which is why I come to you. Right. How about we just pop a true north? Yes, that's it. Thank you, Christine, or Adam. Um, just sorry, that was just in the chat there for anyone who's watching. Why don't we wrap up now? I'm just going to say, Del, thank you so much for that. That was just eye-opening. And it all came from that wrong finger, from that little you twiddling with that. And I just think there's just so much there, and I know it's all about rugby at the end of the day because that's obviously one of the most important things in the world. But I reckon it's just in the workplace as well, and in the home. What you've just described there makes me tingle with joy. I got a couple more of these lined up. You'll see them on in my email list. I'm going to announce them, but I have one coming up about, it's actually an ex-client of mine, and we'll be talking about the critical cadence method, which I put in with them. They wanted critical chain. They ended up with critical cadence, and it's been really, really successful. So I'm going to interview the two product managers of that company, and hopefully they won't make me look like an idiot. And if they do, it was all their fault. But yeah, I think we've got an interesting story there. And I've got another one, which is it's a very practical. Tristan is going to join us and talk about how to cause change, and kind of like the premises that you can often cause change and get things happening in an unpleasant way, or you can do it in a pleasant way, and maybe the pleasant way sticks a bit more. So that's coming up in the next few weeks. But thank you very much, Daryl.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Okay. Goodbye. Thank you a lot.